take the roll. Yes, thank you so much. All right. Jay Bell,
Here.
Sarnia here. And Gillian is not here today. Monica Hernandez here. Bob Lemon,
Here.
Lucas O'Connor,
Here.
Charlene O'Keefe. Ever Pomelo Rose. Here. Renee Rickett. Here. Felicia Shaw. Here. Ada Shido. Here. Next will be public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a public comment? Don't see any on Zoom raise their hand. But in person, let's make a comment. Oh, wait, okay. So first is Naomi Newsom. I apologize if I mispronounced her name.
Nussbaum.
Newsom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this. I really appreciate it. I'm very curious to see whether you include in your bylaws an audience for ordinance for public. I'd like to see that addressed hopefully, and funding is going to arise.
I'm sorry, you're breaking in and out a little bit. So we couldn't quite catch all of what you said. Could you repeat yourself?
Okay, I'll try. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in today's meeting. I'm particularly curious to know whether you are going to include a ordinance in your bylaws, the funding structure for the arts as a whole.
I'm sorry, we still can't understand you. All we got is if you were interested if we were going to do an amendment to the bylaws or a funding structure, and that was it. If you would like, I can send you my email and our email, and you can give it as written comments that I can read to our commissioners.
Okay. Okay, that would be fine. I'm not seeing that is coming through.
1 second.
Okay.
Do you see the email now?
Yes, I do. Easier to with the chat.
Actually, yes, you can comment there too if you'd like.
Okay. The chat is disabled.
Oh, yeah. The chat is disabled. We're only taking comments through email. We have an electronic form online, and I know we're having a really hard time hearing you right now. But if you'd like to submit it, I can read it to the commission.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Bishop Fisher?
I'd like to speak to the issue about the bylaws. Do I wait until that number 5 comes up?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Patricia, did you want to make another comment?
No, I'll wait until the bylaw issue comes up.
All right, perfect, thank you. All right, so one last call for any public commenters while I check. All right, there are no other public comments. Once that email comes through, I will let you guys know, and we'll pause wherever we are, and I'll read that out for you all, to be aware. That's it.
Okay, can we look at the minutes? Well, you did already, but let me give you a minute to look at them. Are there any amendments to the minutes from last meeting? Corrections? Someone like to move to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Felicia, second by Bob.
No, by Jay.
Oh, by Jay, thank you. Okay, good. We have a presentation and.
We need a vote.
Vote on the, motion.
Sorry, yeah, we do. Hello, Robert's rules. Let's vote on the motion. All in favor of accepting the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? It's accepted unanimously. We have a presentation training. Do we need a public comment before that?
Let's do that.
Let's go ahead and make that happen then. That's item number 4 on the agenda.
We're on item number 4. We're about to have a presentation on conflicts of interest. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? None. I'll go ahead and move into presentation.
Thanks and good afternoon. Last time I talked at some length about the Brown Act. I'm hopefully not going to talk at anything like the length I talked last time about conflicts of interest. This is because of a couple of reasons. For one thing, the rules involving conflicts of interest are technical, with lots of non-intuitive exceptions. And for another thing, this is the kind of thing where most questions about conflicts of interest are probably things you should ask to Zhang or to me on an individual basis rather than in a group setting like this. Conflicts of interest, the idea here is that we want to make sure that when you are serving on this county board, that you are serving in the interest of the county and its residents, as opposed to your own interests, whatever they may be. And there are 3 basic types of conflicts of interest legally. There's Government Code Section 1090, which is conflicts of interest in contracting. There is the Political Reform Act, and there are common law conflicts of interest. I'm not going to spend any significant time here on the Political Reform Act because this is not a committee that's required to file statements of economic interest, and so that will make your life a lot easier. But 1090, Government Code Section 1090, and conflicts of interest are important to avoid, not just because it's in the public good to avoid conflicts of interest, but also because some of the penalties for not following the conflict of interest rules can be pretty severe. So what Government Code Section 1090 does is it makes it a felony to essentially to directly or indirectly influence a contract in a way that benefits you, your interest. And we're going to break that down going from the last part first, your interest. What you should be thinking about when you have, when items are coming up here, and we talk about your interests, we're talking about your interest doesn't just mean yours, it means anybody in your immediate family. You know, well, at least it means your spouses, and if you have folks living with you, them as well. And so is it your employment? Is it something a company you have stock in? Is it something that you know, is it something that's going on right near where you live, like within 1,000 feet or so of where you live, that is going to have a positive or negative effect on, you know, that's going to have a positive or negative effect on your interests. May be an employee at a nonprofit organization or at a for-profit organization, and there's a pretty key difference under the rules, depending on your circumstances, with whether or not it's, whatever the decision is, might affect your income. So for instance, if you have a day job as a stock clerk at Target, for instance, one company, chances are if you all vote to apply for a grant from Target's main headquarters, that's not likely to be a conflict of interest. On the other hand, if you are running a nonprofit and your nonprofit is putting in for a grant, that's going to be a lot more foreseeably likely to affect your interest. When we talk about contracts, don't think about that as just a contract. Think about it as grants. Think about that as essentially any sort of agreement of any sort. Think of that broadly. The courts interpret that pretty broadly. So it's not just a contract. It might be a request for proposal. It might be grant applications, that sort of thing. So if your organization is applying for a grant and you're the executive director of that organization, that's something where you will have a conflict of interest, likely. Influencing, if you're voting on something here that affects whether we're doing it, there's a good chance that counts as influencing, whether it's directly or indirectly. Some things are remote enough that they're not going to count. And if we get into an issue where you need to ask about conflicts of interest, hit us up. Let Zhang and me know, and we will try to work through them. Sometimes the issues can be thorny and we'll need follow-up information, so the sooner you know about something coming up, the better, and the easier it'll be for us to give advice to you on it. There are a lot of exceptions. There are certain things about, like I said, certain exceptions involving nonprofits, or certain exceptions for, you know, small interests in large companies. Like, there are a number of exceptions that may apply, but generally, if you're voting on something and there's a chance that it might affect you or your employer specifically, then that's something you want to flag for us as early as possible before anybody votes on anything. Hopefully even before the meeting, you know, hopefully a bit before the meeting, so that we have a chance to look at it and figure out what is the best course for you to do. There is also a type of conflict of interest called common law conflict of interest, and that's sort of a catch-all. So even if there's something that maybe doesn't, you know, that fits within one of the exceptions under 1090, if it looks really, really bad, it probably is. Okay. And so again, if you have something that makes you really think, oh my gosh, this is a significant problem, run it by us. Running it by us does not necessarily, you know, there's a certain principle when you run things by lawyers, or, where you give certain information, you get a response, and if the information's a little bit different, or maybe there was something that was left out, that doesn't, that might affect the analysis. Under the conflict of interest rules, we can give you some guidance on some levels, but what we can't do, what we can't do is grant you a blanket blessing saying, oh, there's no problem here, period. If necessary, it's also possible for us, it's also possible either for you to call another person you could call, or entity you could call. The Fair Political Practices Commission gives opinions, and they have a hotline number that you can call, and there are friendly people that actually are trying to answer your questions to keep people from getting in trouble. And so that would be a good alternative place to ask a question. And a couple of sort of related things, as you are working through projects or programs or ideas, not expend any government money to support or oppose any candidate or ballot measure. Okay? No candidate, no ballot measure. And even if it doesn't say vote for Zhang Myers or vote against Zhang Myers, if it's by its tone or style, it looks like it's a pro or anti Zhang Myers for whatever office kind of announcement, kind of thing, we can't use county money to support or oppose it. Another thing that you will often hear about are procurements, requests for proposals, or other sort of processes. The county has extensive rules to try to keep those processes fair, because everybody has friends in the business, and businesses have a knack for making friends in the appropriate places. And so we have policies to help make sure that whether you have a friend group in the business or not, anybody who's competing on these things is supposed to have a fair shot at getting them. And interfering with those processes is a violation of some county rules. And if we come up on issues about that, let me know. Part of what that is giving information to other people about things. For instance, if at one point we're circulating a draft of, say, a grant proposal document, leaking that to anybody in advance, that would be an example of giving an improper advantage to somebody. That's what we're trying to avoid. Nobody should have improper advantages in these procurement processes.
Didn't understand that example.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
Are you meaning like we gave it to them in advance before it was officially available to everyone?
right,
Is that what you mean?
yeah, that would be an example of giving people competitive advantage. So let's say we're gonna have some grant for sculpture. And it's gonna be open for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And we give somebody gives somebody a jump on it by a couple days. That's giving them sort of and what we're really wanting to do is be scrupulous about not if we're going to do a competitive solicitation for something, we do not want to give people a competitive advantage that they shouldn't otherwise have based on quality of their work. And so that's something that we need to avoid, and we probably have a bit more of a discussion about that as we, if we find ourselves in the position of doing things like that. But it is something worth your knowing in advance that, yes, we need to run our competitive processes fairly and not put a thumb on the scale favor of somebody or other, even if they are really, really good. If they're really, really good at what they do, it should come out in the process anyway. That's some basics about conflicts of interest. There is going to be a training that the clerk of the board is offering. It's going to be at noon, I believe, July 11th, at the County Operations Center in Kearney Mesa. We don't want a majority of the commission to be there, but it would be a good thing for everybody to go to one of these at some point. They're offering this one, they'll offer another one. I think they plan on offering another one sometime later this year, and they'll be offering, I think 3 times a year. So there should be opportunities. I think there's a lot.
Where was this again?
It's going to be at the County Operations Center, and we'll probably send out more information as we get a little bit closer to that and know exactly where and all that.
You said you don't want a majority of the commission to be there. Is that because there would be a risk of violating the Brown Act?
Correct. And so it's going to be with people from a bunch of other boards and commissions as well. So yes, that is exactly the reason.
So you or Zhang will send us out information about signing up so we can keep track of who's going when? You would, right? That's great.
We have a meeting in June, one more,
That's
so
true.
we could,
Right.
at that, we could put on the agenda to decide who's gonna go
Yeah.
and deal with it then, so we know that.
So each time, there can't be more than 3 people or 4 people?
No, a majority.
A majority
As
of
long
us.
as it's not majority, okay.
Right.
So it'll be, at this point, there are 11 appointed commissioners. There'll be
Can't have 6.
Right, although by July, we should have,
Oh, that's-
no, but that's still be, but then we could have 6.
We
Yeah.
could have 6, so, that's correct, actually, by July,
Or we
we
should
would
be,
have at least, we'll have 12, possibly 13, then we can have
Right.
6, but not 7.
right.
So maybe, we could put on the agenda and then we
Yeah,
can
let's do that.
discuss it, at least make sure somebody goes, because we'll all be like, oh, I don't wanna be too many and nobody goes, we don't want that
Right,
to happen.
exactly.
Plus, I think the quicker we can get us through this, these trainings are really, really important, and the quicker we can get us through them all, the better. So, yeah, we don't want nobody going, because we're free, but you'll handle all that, right? Okay.
And I'll be doing one more of these that I can think of, which is gonna be about Public Records Act, and that is the next meeting.
One more question, could you clarify when you were talking about political support, you mentioned county funding, are we allowed as an organization to support an issue like Penny for the Arts, which is a city thing, or something like that, or as not put in?
You cannot, is that a ballot measure?
Not right now.
Okay.
But say if it was a ballot measure.
If it becomes a ballot measure, we can provide information, but we can't by our style, tone, or tenor.
Indoors.
Well, endorsing is one thing, actually endorsing can even be a bit of a problem, but, we cannot spend any money.
Can't spend
Right.
county money.
County money.
We
You,
spend our own, right?
any of you who want to spend money on something, go right ahead.
Got it.
Yeah, not my problem, not my concern, go
Not
ahead.
your circus, not your monkey.
Right.
Okay.
It's just one related, question, if we speak in front of, say, the city council on a, agenda item, like arts funding, are we allowed to put our title or say our title, or should we not associate it with this organization?
I think you can, you need to make sure that you're,
Unless it's been an item that the commission has already spoke on and have decided that
Right.
the commission, you all agreed.
that's exactly right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If that happens, then absolutely, go to town.
Anything more?
No, nothing
Thank
else
you.
on that.
That was really good, thank you so much. Our next thing on this agenda, item number 5, our discussion items. 5A is formation of ad hoc policy committee. Is there any public comment on that?
Unless
Or
you want
should
to
we
do
do the
public
whole
comment
thing?
for the whole thing, and I
Well, I
believe.
think there's gonna be for the bylaws, and so I would like to kind of,
Oh.
normally I would do the whole thing, but
Okay.
because I'm hearing that there's gonna be comment on the bylaws, let's get this one
Very good.
by itself.
Let me interject real fast. I did receive the email, for public comment, so I did want to read what those comments are. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in this meeting. First, she would like to understand how the funding structure will be established for the arts. And second, she would like to see a public art ordinance executed for all CIP projects, as well as for developers on county.
So that wasn't about the bylaws.
No,
The
that
one
was-
about the bylaws was
Patricia.
Patricia Fisher.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So any public comment about formation of ad hoc policy committee? Any commissioners' ideas? Formation of ad hoc policy. Somebody
I wasn't
define that
clear on-
for me.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on what this agenda is.
Yeah.
What is that?
So, we had some discussion at the last meeting on, S-23. You guys mentioned there's possibly amendments and things we'd like to see that. My proposal to the commissioner who said this was to make it more broad, as there may be other policies you would like to review over time. So for this thing, because it's ad hoc, our recommendation would be to possibly set a date, an end date, a sunset date for the ad hoc committee, however long you feel that committee needs to meet. Clarify, even though there's a sunset date, you guys can always amend the sunset date if the work has not been done, at that time.
Was this specifically around the public art policy?
Yes, the public art.
Okay, when it said ad hoc policy committee, I was thinking big policy, all policy. Should this have said public art policy
Yes.
to be specific? Okay,
If you could make that be reflected in a minute, that would be really helpful.
okay. And so the issue right now is, should we establish a public art policy committee to specifically address, the sunset issues, any amendments we'd like to make to it before, in anticipation of the policy sunsetting, we would like to recommend changes to be considered in the new policy. That's what we're gonna do, right? Somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
Remind me, when is the sunset?
December,
If you, is it?
December
December
Of
of
this
this
year,
year.
of this
right?
year.
Yes,
Yes.
but I do want to clarify, even though the sunset date is for this year, we are always allowed to make amendments to any county policy at any point in time. The sunset date is to remind, staff to make sure that all our policies are up to date. It's a reminder to make sure that we don't go decades without reviewing our policy.
So if we wanted to keep the policy as it is, would that be our recommendation?
Yes, you can do that too. I will say that the departments and staff, their process, sunset review process is starting right soon, probably
Yeah,
over
they do.
summer.
Yeah.
And the board letter with the policies usually go forward in October, November.
What, if memory serves, something we were concerned about last month had to do with the amount of money or the percentage of money that would be allocated per the existing policy. And I think I took that off of my to-do list because I thought the budget process was so entrenched already. So let's say we wanted to change the amount of money, and that change was accepted, and that was the recommendation, correct?
Yes.
It's not like we want to, then it happens, it's what we recommend.
Yes.
What, budget year would it be able to go into effect?
So if you're discussing S-20,
S-23?
I wanted to clarify a little bit your question.
Okay.
So, there's a couple of different pieces. If you are making a comment about our budget, it is still open for public comment, and during my staff report, I can share the different avenues. We have a online budget meeting tomorrow for the community to give insight. So that, if your recommendation is accepted, it would technically go into effect this next fiscal year, so the 23-24 fiscal. If you're talking about S-23 and their clarification of what percentage of the capital, project money goes to public art, that would be a little more flexible, and it would depend. They would try to implement it as soon as they have the next capital project, whenever that may be,
There's some coming up, so,
yeah.
okay.
So, but if they've already started the process for that capital project, they're using the existing policies, that would be too late. But if they're a new capital project, that was what we went. So I wasn't, we touched on a couple different things, I
Yeah.
wasn't quite sure.
It's more to make sure that when I speak to the public, because it seems to that there's an interest in this, and I do have a speaking thing coming up. If it were to come up, I want to explain it just like you did.
I would,
With
yeah.
possible dates.
Yes.
I would, in moving on, because we're eventually gonna look at our bylaws.
Right.
It seems like a pretty consistent committee that exists with the other county organizations, there's a public art subcommittee. I would think, consider not just a policy review for this specific thing, but look at the establishment of a public art subcommittee that could then have a broader context. Since it seems to be a reoccurring thing that's come up in almost every public comment.
It would make sense, though, because of the ordinance language, to give that committee a sunset date, because the ordinance does seem to call for that.
I'd probably back off these one ordinance and this thing, and look at
More
the
holistically.
subcommittee that you would form.
That will be up to you guys.
Yeah.
We will implement it as needed. It would just require a vote by the commission to establish these committees.
If we added a sunset, we could put it at a stage of the year where it would, and that way each year, it could be a new subcommittee. We could re-vote it in and put new people, so, because we're gonna be coming in and out for various reasons, so maybe that we could, without having to go to the city council to get it approved, the county to get it approved. That's, it's one option.
Like the bylaws allow for the formation of subcommittees.
The permanent ones, we'd have to have something changed because it's part of the charter of the county, what they're saying, correct?
It's part of the ordinance creating the arts.
Art commission, sorry.
So what's on the table now is, should we form an ad hoc public policy committee? That's where we are now.
Public art committee.
Public art committee, period. That's what's,
That's what I'm hearing.
that's
Okay,
what
everybody
we're,
else is
should we
hearing?
do that?
I understand, so any subcommittee needs to be approved by, do we just approve that, or is
Yes, just
that?
the commission. The commission just needs to agree that
Oh,
they
okay.
need to create a subcommittee.
There you go.
And appoint members, non-majority numbers of members to the subcommittee.
And what are the requirements under a subcommittee? Public meetings, or they?
Yes.
Oh, they are public meetings? I thought she said non-majority, so they were,
Well,
what does that mean?
except the ordinance, I believe the ordinance has some, in the provision that the committee talks about how all meetings of the subcommittee.
No fewer than 3 members, one.
All meetings
Subcommittees are open to
its subcommittees are open to public.
So I think you were addressing the Brown Act, and you're addressing it's a meeting that the public can attend. How do we let the public know what happened?
You could do the same process that you do
Okay.
Yeah.
Post it on the website, and
And I
anybody
would
who's
assist
signed
that.
up, okay.
Yeah, and I would assist with that, yeah. So
Okay.
section 84.805 E, under meetings, does say all meetings of the commission, including any ad hoc committees or other committees appointed by the commission, shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meetings of the commission.
Can those be, electronic or Zoom meetings, subcommittee meetings?
I don't know, David.
There's a statement in there, the exact phrasing out, remember, but it talks about, it also talks about, like, if it were not an ad hoc committee, if it became something permanent, then it would, under the Brown Act, need to, if it had a majority, or actually, even if it didn't, but, ad hoc subcommittee, the Brown Act itself does not require it to be, does not require it to be Brown Act compliant, but when the ordinance says open and public, so, if it's a formal if it's a subcommittee, chances are it would be safe.
But if it's ad hoc, we have more flexibility. Not really.
Not really, because the ordinance language saying all committees.
Oh.
It says including ad hoc committees
Okay.
and other committees
Yeah.
appointed by the commission.
Well,
Right.
Then why differentiate them?
There's not, if that language was not in the ordinance, there would not be a need, there would be a difference. With that language in the ordinance, there's not a real difference.
Interesting too, because the ordinance says that the commission, committee does not need to be made up solely of members of the commission.
Correct.
So that would be if you wanted a representative from general services, overseas or capital program.
Right, look at the,
Right, or a representative from another agency or another
Exactly.
opportunity to work with.
so again, is the issue right now whether this will be, an ad hoc committee or a permanent committee? Is that what we're contemplating?
Or whether you'll have one.
A period?
I think if you have one,
Right.
period, yeah.
So, as I was reading the public art, policy, it just, to me, it begs for a revisiting, based on, some of the policies I've seen in other municipal governments across the country. It seems to be, lacking detail, specificity, definitions. It could be much more robust. And so I think the only way we can get there, and here's an opportunity to get it where we would like it to be, is for a group of us to spend time with it, those of us who have some background, spend time with us and try to enhance it. So, I mean, I would definitely support the idea of us having either an ad hoc one that would sunset, and then the recommendations would be put forward, and then we would decide at that time whether we want to have a permanent one. But the main issue is that, yes, let's get to work on it. Let's make it better. That's what I would say.
To me, we could do that, right? We could have an ad hoc, work
We
on
can
it,
work.
it gets sunsetted, and then if we decide we want either another ad hoc or
Or a permanent one.
permanent,
Do it at that
we
time.
could do it then.
Yeah, and why not try, to meet the December, deadline rather than
Yeah.
having to go and, have it, ratified the way it is and go in and try to get it done again. Let's try, and if we can't, then we'll just throw in the towel.
Is that what
We need more time.
My one question then on that, I like it a lot. I like flexibility. My one question though, would that hold us up from being able to approve our bylaws?
Your subcommittee meetings would be would usually be separate from these meetings, so it would be
Right.
up to your subcommittee meetings when you guys would, how often, when you would wanna meet. and
Okay,
things
so
like that.
we could, okay,
And you can, so this meeting can still be focused on the bylaws. The
Okay.
subcommittee meetings could be different, and when they're ready to come back with, amendments, that could be an item on this meeting's agenda. Discussion.
But you're telling us that this is something that would ideally happen in the next couple of months, given the paperwork going through and then being proposed?
Yes.
Be accepted, you know, in the autumn.
General Services is aware that you want changes and edits, and they are prepared to come and give, I had sent them a list of all the questions that came up during our last meeting, so they're prepared to come either to the subcommittee or whatever meeting, to discuss those questions and do a presentation. As well as all the other questions you had.
the date, kind of a hot item, I think. Do you think it come next month,
Yes,
that fast?
yes, I believe.
Would that work for everybody?
Won't they come to the subcommittee meeting then?
Yes.
Yes.
Or are we gonna have a subcommittee meeting,
Yeah.
you
If
think,
we
before?
were to form one, as Alicia
Yeah.
was speaking to, then they should come to the.
It could go either way.
Right.
If you feel that this is something you want the broader commission members to hear the presentation, then you would put it on, whichever commission, meeting agenda you would like. If you would then after that, or accordingly, want them to send representatives to the subcommittee meeting, then they can always attend those regularly and answer questions that subcommittee.
Be interested in them coming to meet. Others were also interested, I'd be interested in having them come and talk to us. I mean, there's many things for many of us here where we're learning something with each of these bits of information. And also helps us know whether we want to be on the subcommittee and take a more active role.
That's a big thing I was thinking about for it. Right.
Could suggest maybe we could take action today to decide that we are establishing an ad hoc public art subcommittee that sunsets at the end of this calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Would you
And
like
we
to
would-
make that a
and,
motion without the and?
We just.
Well, yes, I can do that, but there
One
is an
motion,
and.
no and?
But there is an and to it, which
Okay.
is that we appoint members at the next meeting when we are at full strength, first of all.
Mhm.
And there's a presentation to the entire board on that policy from General Services, so that anyone who's getting into it knows what they're getting into, and everyone knows whether they're interested or not before they dive in.
We'll give a chance for David and me to look into these meetings first. But it could be, you can attend virtually and I just sit
That would
in
be
this room in
great to
case
know.
That'll
someone
get you
wants
more
to see in
people.
person.
Yeah.
And just before I finish off, I'm happy to make that a motion. Do we need to name now how many people on the subcommittee in the motion?
Probably we're gonna figure that out later.
No, you don't have to name, especially if we're not appointing anybody to it,
Okay.
that's not gonna do
Then
anything.
as long
I
as
will leave that alone. Yeah.
As long as it surpasses the amount of membership.
So, I'd like to be able to restate that as a motion myself, but I'm sure I'll fail appallingly if I try. Could you restate it?
Motion to create an ad hoc public art committee and appoint members following the June meeting, or at the June meeting.
Was it
Which
part of the
one?
motion, was it part of the motion to also include the sunset?
Yes, and sunset December 31st, 2023.
So let's try it again. The motion, I'm gonna say it back to you to make sure I heard it right. The motion is
Three-part motion.
to have an ad hoc public art policy,
Public art
committee,
This is public
public
art.
art committee,
I can,
which will be oh, you can do it? Go
yeah,
for it.
how about, okay, so the motion from Lucas O'Connor that's on the table is to move to create an ad hoc public art committee set December 31st, 2023, and to appoint members at our June meeting.
Wait a second?
Second.
Okay.
Oh.
We have a couple seconds, sorry.
Second.
Okay, a bunch of seconds.
Okay.
Can we vote?
Hmm?
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No opposed, so it passes. And please put on the agenda a visit by, I want to call them appropriations, but I know that's.
General services.
General services, thank you. I'm getting my governments mixed up. Yes, please have them on, and maybe, if you could give us all a heads up about how much time you're gonna want.
Yes.
Okay, now we need to get into draft of the bylaws. Again, public comment, I believe, Ms. Fisher. She wanted to comment. Is she there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Hello, I'm Patricia Fisher from the San Diego Visual Arts Network. I did take the time to write this as an email in case you can't hear me. But if you give me a heads up, if you can hear me, then I'll go forward. You can hear me?
Hear you.
Thank
Hear you.
All right, so I'm addressing the issue of duties and responsibilities that was written in the bylaws. If you go forward with the bylaws, the duties and responsibilities stated in the original document do not seem to be consistent. Although they are important, they don't be consistent with what you need in bylaws. Bylaws might only have to include a mission statement. And if you restrict it to that mission statement, then you are giving the commission the widest possible ability to design its own remit. Of course, a mission statement has to be carefully crafted, and it could include education, art promotion, advocacy, and financial support, which were in those original responsibilities that the original document was given. You also seem to have already a vision statement in the bylaws. It's in Article 1, Section B, and it states that the purpose of the commission is to promote greater cultural equity, access, and inclusion, to champion the arts as essential to the daily life by investing in a vibrant arts community, to shape innovative cultural policy, and to build public awareness of the value and benefits of the arts and culture diversity. The original list from A to B, the two of those items seem not to be about duties and responsibilities. They seem to be shared values. In other words, promote equity and access to arts and culture in the region, and D, assure transparency, i.e. conduct public hearings daily when matters before the commission. The other 5 issues seem to me to be able to be incorporated into a vision or a mission, but they basically seem to be more like goals. And I don't believe that goals should be necessarily a part of the bylaws. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that just because these responsibilities and duties were in the original document, transferring them in a body into the bylaws in the form they are in now does not seem appropriate to give you the fluidity that you might need to have in defining your future responsibilities. Thank you so much for letting me share this opinion. And I will be reporting this also back to our confab, which includes Jonathan Gluss and a lot of other leaders within the community. I'm sorry that Jim Gilliam wasn't there to present today. And I hope that you will make decisions to make the bylaws as flexible as possible for the future of this commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you. there any other, Maria Molina wishes to speak? Any other, comments from the public? Okay, let's dive into the bylaws.
I was interested in, Zhang, your research with LA County Arts Commission, finding that they in fact don't use bylaws, they use some type of other document.
So, LA County, their Arts Commission and how they're appointed and created and, how they exist is different than how our Arts Commission exists. Our Arts Commission is considered similar to an advisory body to the Board of Supervisors, with appointments to the board. As such, they are subject to our board policy A74, I believe it is. The A74. And that board policy requires you have a bylaws for your commission. So the commission is established by ordinance, and then the commission themselves are the ones, who would create the bylaws. LA County doesn't have that. They have their own laws and things they have to do, but they do have what they call rules of procedure, which our commission is also allowed to do. And the rules of procedure will be kind of basically how you run a meeting. So if there's anything you want to do that's different than Robert's rules, for instance, another example would be if you wanted to say that public comment would be limited to, like, for our Board of Supervisors, a public comment are limited to 2 minutes. That would be another example. So those are kinds of things that are more of, as it sounds, rules of procedure, how you proceed in your meeting. So that is the other thing. So that's what they sent over, and that's what they have to help.
But the other commissions for the county have bylaws?
Yes, every single one of our commissions should have bylaws.
Okay,
And the ordinance creating this commission specifically, this bylaws are required, so.
okay. So there you go.
And
So it is.
I have a question about this document in relation to, our commentator, or our public comment. When you put this together, this template, I thought it was pretty much lifted to keep it in accordance with what is required in bylaws by the Board of Supervisors. Is that correct or wrong?
That is correct. So a lot of the sections, the article and the section pieces are, lifted directly from A74. There are some things such as duties or purpose was then lifted from ordinance. So, for the most part, there's nothing in here I made up. I either took it from A74 or I took it from the existing ordinance. And we can, as you discussed, we can guide you through, this is A74 or this is from the ordinance. And even if it's from the ordinance, you can still change it. It just needs, we have to take notes, and we will also have to amend the ordinance.
Which happens at the Board of Supervisor level,
Both
not
of
just
these-
us.
Both of these will be, so anything in
Okay.
your bylaws will need to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. But if you are changing bylaws and ordinance, it can go together as one package, since they're related. Or that would be my recommendation.
We could amend the bylaws or add to the bylaws without speaking to the ordinance as well, right?
As long as it's consistent with
Right.
all the other
Yes.
county
So if
policies,
we were,
yeah.
if we were to expand duties of the
Exactly.
commissioners, that wouldn't require us to
That-
go back as long as they're consistent with the original ordinance.
As long as it is, but that expanding it significantly might not be consistent, because the commission has the authority that the board delegates to it. So there are some limits to that.
I understand, we couldn't write to the bylaws that we have the authority to award contracts or something like that, but we could expand on how we liaison with the art community.
Yes.
I mean, my reading of all of this, especially on the duties and responsibilities portion, it's not limited to these things.
Correct.
This
Can you
is,
say that just a little louder?
sorry, it's not limited to the things that are listed under duties and responsibilities so much as setting a floor, and we can do additional things as well, obviously without ending up in conflict with the existing ordinance. You know, this is starting point, not, or not the ceiling, or what we can do.
What I like about bylaws is it often helps you determine what you don't do and keeps you from creeping into all kinds of things that will determine whether you can make an impact or not. And so I like them not to be a place where, oh, we can add more stuff, because then that makes you think, oh, well, we can just be really vague here and just keep growing and growing and growing. I'd like to be specific around, 4 or 5 issues, maybe even less, that this is our world, These are the things we care about. These are the things that we go to bat for, we fight for. And not having it be consider them, well, this is just a starting point so we can travel the universe, and next thing you know, we're out going Amway or something, I don't know.
So, to that point, and also thinking of, mentioned last month, one of the things was study and evaluate equity and access to arts and culture in the region, and that's Article 3A. I happen to be kind of passionate about that one, and I'm a data geek, and so I am. I think in addition to having bylaws, which are kind of what ground us, we could expand within the bylaws based on what is our capacity as commission members to get the work done that we're passionate about, and to be able to measure what we're passionate about. That's the data geek part. I think that everything on the duties and responsibilities, I'm behind, but each of us is only a person who has so much resources. So I think if we can decide, but not within, the bylaws are the skeleton. The fleshing out could be we decide, but don't put down in the bylaws, what are we going to tackle this year? Is that kind of what you were saying?
Kind of. I just think that the items under the duties should be distinct. I felt that some of them seemed to be a subset of the other.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Agree.
And
Yep.
so to get them really distinct and clear, and yes, how you get to those areas matters, but I thought some of them kind of ran together, that they were really all talking about
Kind of the
subset.
same thing?
Yes.
Okay, could you give me an example of a couple of articles?
I don't have my copy in front of me.
could you give her one?
Unfortunately.
So would
First
Article
two,
3C be a specific one, because it says specifically conduct workshops, so that,
Yeah, it's just too in the weeds.
Wait,
I
what is,
think. Yeah.
I thought you said articles. Are you talking about just Article 3? There are things in there that seem kind of like, that's the same thing said all over again?
Article 3, yes,
That's what I thought too.
yes. And things like conduct workshops, to me, that's a tactic or,
Right.
a task.
It's a very
It should-
measurable task,
Well,
but
it is, but
a
it's,
task.
and
That's
we
right.
could, there are many ways to do, even study and evaluate equity. It seems like we need to elevate, and this is what I was trying to say last time, that we need to elevate to some more global, broad issues that could be achieved in many, many ways. But some of these feel like conduct workshops, that's way in the weeds to me, way too, you know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I was thinking,
Yeah.
when I read through the other commissions, I was thinking about broader kind
Broader,
of categories.
yeah.
And I divided into 4 categories. First would be research,
Yes.
investigate,
Yes.
and then the second category, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we work back and forth with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one was advocate,
Mm-hmm.
and the fourth one was advise.
Yeah.
The only one that's floating out there for me is administration, but I think we could start, those are like 4 pillars,
Those
that
are
maybe we can kind
yeah.
of build out. I don't know if that covers everything, but those are the buckets that I was kind of looking at.
The one I hated was 3C. That's like so specific, even
Yeah.
though it's easy to measure.
Yeah, but what is
It's not
that?
the only way to get the job done, which is that we're being asked to do in A and B, and even in D. Get the information out there.
Right.
Having workshops
Yeah,
is one way, but there's a lot of other ways.
Right.
Or, before we go any deeper, is this, are these part of the charter or part
Yeah,
of
do
the?
we have to do them, or can we say, no, we don't want that one?
These are the language in from the ordinance, which means those are the commission's, duties, but, you know, if you want to rephrase them, if you want to maybe, you know, if you want to rephrase them in a way that maybe is focusing on, what the commission's priorities are, you could do that as long as it's consistent.
So how would we rephrase C and D to get rid of them?
I wouldn't get rid of them, I would put them maybe in an put them in an outline, you know, those are
Yeah,
past
like,
in an
there's, here's an
outline.
algorithm over here.
Communicate with the public on
Possibilities
issues in
could
San Diego
be-
County, and then you could have.
Okay, I think Lucas has something.
I mean, I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't disagree with any of the aspiration to broader things that I'm hearing. I think 2 things. One, I don't think any of that is in conflict with what's written here. And so, you know, whether it gets written into the bylaws or not, we can do that. And the other thing that I would consider, or suggest that we consider, is that this went through many months of deliberation with the county supervisors and their staff to create what structure they want from us and what product they want from this commission. And there's a reason for that, probably, that we may want to at least try before we start throwing stuff out the window.
I think maybe thinking about that, and thinking of, I like your division. I think it's
I
very
do too.
clear, clean in a way, and it allows room for, changing with the times, you know, so that things are introduced in these sort of categories that kind of are more timeless, because workshops may be very useful. Some, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, let's say workshops, because some are, you know, I find certain workshops very useful for certain projects, but over time, it might be like a totally different type of format, you know, or when you want to make room for several types of formats. So I also see, like here, for, Article 3B, promote equity and access to arts and cultural reasons. I mean, I see that, again, like more of our mission, so that in maybe what it is we could kind of go forward, not necessarily need to change ordinances now, but I don't see a problem in sort of organizing our activity or in our process under categories like Jay suggested, and maybe over the course of some months, we might then say, let's now adjust our ordinances because we're operating in this very organized way under these categories. And that all of these, putting these under these categories are in effect, you know, promoting equity. I mean, that's something that's our mission.
So, why I had a problem with C, and maybe I'm wrong about this completely, you just spoke to it in a way. My problem with C was that I thought it was saying, you must do this. This is your duty is a big word, and your responsibility. But it's, to me, in conflict with promote equity, because workshops are not equitable if people can't get access to them. We're putting a bunch of energy and our personal resources into conducting workshops, and we're missing everybody in Hacomba, in my district, because they can't get to a workshop. How have we promoted equity?
Well, we'll do that anyway, won't we? Somebody will always not be able to, you know, so it's
Yes,
more like.
but if you say you must do this format, somebody will always not, you're right, but we need to be mindful about getting rid of the barriers. That's what equity means to me, get rid of the barriers that make somebody not be able to.
I think I like the long-term, I like the longevity of a categorization like Jay suggests. But I also understand that, like, where so many interesting things pop up every time we start to have a conversation. This is only meeting number 2. So I like the idea of maybe we continue to digest, or, you know, maybe even if it's a couple more meetings, especially for the ordinances, so let's be sure. And I personally don't like that one either. I would, but that I also respect the fact that, let's see, what months of thinking and putting this careful language. Out of, you know, I'm just trying to take a moment.
My thing about the workshops or any of these type of things in equity, I think equity has to be used in any decision we make.
Anyone,
And so if
yes.
you want to do workshops and your issue is they don't reach Jacamba, then let's hold a workshop in Jacamba.
Mhm.
That is the
Yeah.
solution instead of just not doing workshops.
That's what I was thinking.
So I think
Either
if
thing.
we use an overall guidance, the ones that are more principled than ones that are
Yeah.
specific responsibilities. I think like Lucas mentioned, if the city, sorry, I keep saying city, if the county commissioners thought those were important things, that we may not want to discard them immediately, but we like the idea of looking at them in a more broad way, but. we
There
use
could
work-
be workshops in anything. We could have workshops in advocacy. There could be workshops around research. I think that these are actions. I mean, just look at C, look at the end of C. What does it mean to explore specific subject areas and improve relationships? What does that mean? About what? I mean, I think that this whole C is trying to get at something larger. Why do we want to offer workshops? So that people can learn, and everybody has understanding, and everyone has access to information, and everyone knows how to be a better nonprofit, or everybody knows how to sustain their operations. So then go bigger and talk about our real responsibility is to ensure that people have the information and tools they need to
Which means, and it kind of seems like that is something that can be, you know, instead of the commission shall have the power and duty to, it's like support the mission of the commission by, and then having the broader categories that allow that. Maybe that's one way to do it as we think about it. It sounds like we would like to adjust these.
I think we just adjust them so that they are broader, more aspirational, and less specific on specific activities, and more about what do we want to see happen? You know, we want to bring people together. We want to communicate information. You know, we want to advocate for the arts so that the arts can grow and thrive. Stay here, and then when we get ready to actually do things, then we have that broad plate of options, depending on what it is.
Well, I was just gonna say, it still does seem like C and D are tools within our toolbox that we may use to reach one of
Anything,
our,
yeah. Mhm.
one of our goals. And so I think that's an important distinction between the categories that you laid out, the research, communicate, advocate, advise, possibly fund, as our, you know, our goals.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
these are the tools that, by which we may reach those.
And I think these should constantly be considered in alignment with our mission, the duties, responsibilities to support that mission in these ways, and then the tools on the third on the hierarchy.
So something that may help this discussion is maybe it would be easier for you to see Article 3 as just the commission shall have the power and duty to, and ignore everything below that right now. So you can create whatever duties and responsibilities within knowing that A through G is what is in the ordinance, but you are not required to have A through G language in this article. So if you wish to say, for example, the commission shall have the power and duties to research and investigate, communicate, advocate, and advise for the arts community, or however else you wanted to add, you may do so, and none of that, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, is in conflict with the ordinance. Is in conflict with the
You
ordinance.
don't have to have the ordinance language in our bylaws.
Yes,
Okay.
so,
Yay.
I probably should have sort of that. I don't know if that helps.
It does.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do like,
That's a big lie.
And I was like, how about just take that out and then start with a clean slate, and we will let you know if it conflicts with the ordinance.
and would it be redundant to say the commission shall have the power and duty to support the mission, you know, or to, you know, to, execute the mission of the commission by, and then, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you guys fine?
Well, that's why I'm now wondering that if we need
Can you
to,
speak a little?
Oh, I
I'm
said,
sorry.
do we have a specific mission statement?
but I think that's where those aspirations all come, Felicia, too, you know, I think to like, to think about that in line with.
I mean, if we change it to has the power and duty to fulfill its purpose and authority, see Article 1, essentially. I mean, obviously, it's not literally that, but it's, you know, one sentence that essentially just says, to fulfill its purpose and authority, because that is outlined in 4 sections at the top of.
Because then you don't have to say after each of those, for example, the research, I keep going back to, that time we don't have to say for the da. That's already implied in the fulfilling its power.
And to clarify, you do not have a mission, vision, et cetera, statement as of now. That is something your commission may wish to work on, but it is not in existence.
Most bylaws do.
Yes. Well, let's do, but,
Mhm.
or may, but you do not have them currently.
I thought that this is so important, and again, I have another ad hoc committee, but I find that when you get a small group of people that can singularly focus on something like this and bring back some recommendations, it's easier for the larger group to respond to something than for us to try to wordsmith here. So although, you know, we're a small group and, you know, we already have potentially one ad hoc committee starting, I think that perhaps a bylaws ad hoc committee, which will sunset, because we will finish this, right? We won't have this forever, might be a good idea.
I agree.
Okay, I'd like to, one of the things I thought I would make sure of is that people who I didn't hear speaking have an opportunity to speak. So, Monica, I haven't heard you, and Ever, I haven't heard you, and, sorry, I forgot your name. What? Ada, I haven't heard you, we haven't heard you. Start with you, Monica, is there anything you want to say?
Yes, I definitely agree with what Felicia just said. What I was
About
wondering
ad hoc?
about the ad hoc, for bylaws, would that also include the potentially the creation of the mission vision, or would that be maybe something we take on later, or do we create a separate ad hoc for that?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's worth maybe putting something out there, because you're kind of thinking of them together. Because what are we doing? I keep hearing, you know, the goals are what we really wanna achieve. It might be a good way to do some brainstorming, and then if anyone who's not on the committee has brainstormed separately, then they can share those as well. I think it would be necessary to think about them.
I would just question how much longer that adds to the process of getting to the point where we have bylaws. So,
Yeah, I was wondering.
I mean, it might be worth having an ad hoc committee on bylaws, and the first thing is if you should come back with something that we can adopt so that we can function as a body, and then can also then get into developing a mission statement over a longer period of time.
So I actually do have something on the bylaws, but it's not necessarily. Okay. Because there was like some wording that I saw in Article 2, specifically Section B, and it's very minor, but it's just about like I have a question about like, is there a reason why we use he or she when referring to committee members rather than like the singular they? Because that can sometimes like cause like, not confusion, but like
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of conflict for some members who
Yeah.
want to, like, be on the commission and stuff. Is there like a specific, like, legal reason why we can't use the word they, or?
No.
Okay.
Nothing keeping that out.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
because that's something that I was wondering if we could change just to, before I forget, like, because I saw that on, yeah, to change, like, whenever I see those in, like, I guess rules, but then in this case bylaws.
So, for example, just to make sure I understand.
Yes.
It wouldn't just be changing it to they. The sentence, any commissioner whose term has expired hereunder shall continue to discharge their duties.
Yes.
Okay.
Or even it could be his, her, or their, like, if you want to
His, her,
keep
their,
his,
okay.
her, or their, if you want to keep the his or her, so that way, like, her, it's really
Okay.
whichever one, just to at least include the singular they for those who use
I feel that
the
they,
category.
I feel that they is probably the most useful and efficient.
Yeah, because that's what I was
We
thinking
just
too,
did a
because I didn't want to, like,
blanket-
add just so many
Well, yeah.
words, like, you know what I mean? And
They
it's,
are there, just basically removing any,
Just make it gender
any
neutral.
mention of gender.
Right.
Gender neutral, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Across the board, is that something we can do?
okay, cool, thank you.
I think that's an important thing, thank you.
And, no, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so I think Lucas was mentioning that,
Again, a little bit louder for me, I'm so sorry.
so I think Lucas was mentioning how, like, us creating a mission statement might kind of postpone, like, our.
Passage of bylaws?
Yeah,
Mhm.
but then our public commenter also pointed out that Article 1, Section B kind of is like our mission statement, so I think that we could probably amend that or just use that as a backbone.
It's close, huh?
but maybe it's something the ad hoc committee could look at.
Yeah,
And
and
then
see
come
if it
back with
works.
that, but we don't,
Yeah.
then as a group, we could decide whether we're ready to move forward.
Yeah.
If we want more time, but Lucas made a good point, we do want to be an active body.
So do I hear a proposal for an ad hoc committee on bylaws that will meet?
Before we go into proposals, somebody motions, does that mean we can't discuss this document anymore? So
No.
there's a couple other things that I just want to make sure we address before we,
Okay, let's do it.
they're not huge, but, the absence for more than 1/3 of regular scheduled meetings, okay, there's only, if we do every other month, there's 6 meetings. If you miss 2, that would mean you're basically out, so that seems a little steep, but I'm not saying that's just me personally, but I'm okay with that, but we should understand that we're only doing 6 meetings. That means if you miss 2,
Right.
you're out. That seems kind of, and secondly, there could be
Before we move from that, I have a legal question about that, because I saw an example in the LA wasn't bylaws,
Rules
but,
and procedures. or
yeah, the
something.
rules and procedures that looked like it would handle that. But I want to know if we could do it. And that was without, I think the wording was, if you miss 2 consecutive meetings or 3 consecutive meetings without approval by whatever they called it, the chair or whatever, then you were out.
Right.
Could we do something like that?
Like an unexcused.
Yeah, like an
Yeah.
unexcused
Yeah.
absence. It basically, I've been chair of a committee where the person just kept missing meetings and never communicated with me at all, and even didn't respond to phone calls. Okay, so that's like, you're not an active member, versus, I had a death in my family, I'm gonna have to miss that meeting.
Or
Right.
like,
I'm gonna say,
holiday.
go take care of your family,
And
you
I was
know?
just thinking maybe something ad hoc committee could look at, a suggestion would
Yeah.
be that if somebody misses that, then there's a vote by the group,
Or something,
and then,
yeah.
and
go
then
by
the only other
something.
thing, that came up to me was, I've seen this happen on other county commissions, if somebody needs to be removed from the group. And not
Yeah.
because they broke some major rule that has to do with the county, but that we all say, whatever reason, we're all like, hey, this person's gotta go.
Disrupt.
Is there a way to, or if they, do stuff that shouldn't be happening, is there a way to remove them, as a group? Do we say it's 3/4? Is it over 50? to take somebody off the board if there's a reason. Or if we don't wanna have it, that's fine, but if we have that, there won't be any conflict.
Shouldn't that be in? I thought there was.
There is for the county to remove them, but not this group.
But not for us.
Right,
Okay.
if we, for some reason, think somebody should be removed, because for whatever, Felicia starts going around town and saying, I wanna stop all arts funding, I hate the arts, I'm gonna burn down, you know, whatever it is, it's not breaking the law, but it's like contrary to what we do, or,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe if the person's
Yeah,
so
that's all.
disruptive. It may not happen with this group, but say 3 years from now, there's a person that group decides needs to be removed, who got appointed by who knows who, is there a process?
So I can we can answer to your question. Regarding the missing of, meetings, it is in the ordinance, but there's nothing to say that, for example, unexcused, into the ordinance, we can add that in.
Okay.
Second piece of that is, if you so wish, this commission can do a, procedure to vote if there's conduct unbecoming a member of the commission.
That
There
one's
are-
a slippery slope. though.
There, it
That
is
wording.
slippery, it
We
is,
don't appoint to the,
Yeah.
we don't,
right, the
we,
supervisors.
Right.
yes. I believe what has occurred before in another commission that I think the Rutherford County staff is thinking of is the commission made the recommendation and the board voted
Oh,
to approve.
mhm.
If,
That might be
if it is not, since you're all appointed by somebody,
Mhm,
the board would have to, the board of supervisors, the appointing authority would have to approve that. Other commissions, their commission actually appoints people also, so that's a little different. But there could be something, like to have a procedure and a recommendation
Yeah, we
to the
could
board of
still have a process of getting that information.
We could do that at any point though, right? I mean, because we have the ability to advise and recommend to the board.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we could, I think, even without seeing the bylaws, make a motion, pass something, then.
Yeah, I just wanna bring it up to something to think of,
Really
because
good point.
it happens in a lot, I've been on a lot of boards,
Mhm.
and sometimes there's somebody who needs to go,
Mhm.
and there needs to be something, so that person says, you can't vote and do that, it's not in the bylaws. But if it is in the bylaws, then they know that. It kinda encourages people to behave.
Mhm.
Supervisors, so how is someone removed from a commission? The board of supervisors votes to remove them?
The appointing supervisor can just decide. And that's one.
But all
A person could
appointees
remove-
are approved by the entire board of supervisors,
The
right?
appointments do go forward to the board of supervisors. We do have an item every meeting that says appointment. However, generally, each office defers to that individual office to allow them to do their own appointments. This might be a good time to remind you that we do have a code of conduct for our boards, committees, and commissions. So there is a code of conduct that exists, currently, that comes from the board of supervisors.
It's
I
in
can-
there, actually,
it-
section
there's
E.
a link, there's a link in
yeah.
there, and then there's also, I can send it out in our next, thing, but, it's also just on the main page for the clerk board community.
Renee, that's all I had, I just wanted to talk about those before we went to
Okay,
the
I
motion.
have one
I need
clarifying
to,
point.
I need to take a quick break, I'm awfully sorry, but I had to use the loo, and now everybody on Zoom knows that. Can we just take a quick 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Recess for 5
Be in recess,
Yeah,
that's the word I was
right.
looking for.
That's fine, if the rest of the commission is fine with that.
What do you all think? Okay, thank you so much. It's what it's called in my industry, a workaround is when the policy does not fit what actually needs to happen in practice. You devise a work around it. And it's not illegal, it just means it comes out of people's personal infrastructure to do it. The workaround isn't getting around the law, it's, well, this resource needs to happen, and I have it, so I'll go ahead and do it. But it means you have to, there to be, everybody gets a shot at being on this commission. It would possibly mean that some of them, that workaround would require some of them relying on the kindness of strangers. I would like to see something built in too. Not necessarily hundreds of dollars to go to some, but just to get to a meeting. And I'm not even,
Just briefly, are we back in session officially?
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Are
Oh,
we
yeah,
back in
yeah,
session
yeah, yeah,
officially?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are.
And is this something that go in the bylaws, or?
Is that the place for it, David?
It would go in the ordinance, and, yeah, it would require a change to the ordinance.
So the bylaws ad hoc committee, we could still have bylaws, but they could recommend that the ordinance be changed. I'm asking, this is a question, that the ordinance be changed to include, I don't know, reimbursement for travel, I don't know, something, we don't know what the word is.
With approval by,
Right,
subject to approval.
If we could ask staff if you could,
look
in the
into
fall
that.
meeting,
Yeah.
see what other committees are doing, and if there's any policy or changes around it.
We have to develop some type of actual budget line item, you know,
Well, I'm
that-
kind
so
of-
that they can, you know, 'cause right now we have no
It's
budget.
exactly what you don't want to hear us say, but
Well,
come on, guys.
Right now, there's no budget for this, right, other
Right.
than their
Well,
staff time.
there's a budget for the staff, people that are sitting here in the room and the electricity, but, beyond that,
Right, but there may be some that,
right.
some kind of.
Again,
be
I'm thinking
established.
of the, you know, way outlying. My, District 2 is like way the hell out there. And District, not 1, what's next to 1? Is it 4? 5, it's 5, you're right. And so how do you get, I'm thinking, you know, being able to participate is a form of equity, so that's my point here. And if
Considering
the
the first
economics
line
of it
and-
are making it
Yeah.
impossible, and there's no public transportation
That's what I was surprised
way the
at.
heck out there, so,
And maybe it could come from discretionary fund of the commissioner from that district or something also, might be
oh,
an
there's a
avenue
thought.
to get to it that way.
What do you think? I know he's like cringing, David is cringing.
There would probably be, you know, like I said, it would require either, it would require an ordinance change for the commissioners to reimburse travel expenses.
Perhaps in the meantime, or in addition to looking at reimbursement for expenses, we look at other potential ways of providing that access. I mean, I know we're
Yeah.
all supposed to be in person, but is there a way that we could have, you know, a virtual aspect where we could actually have people participate? I don't know the legalities of that either, but I think that's another way to address that access and equity issue.
I love that you're putting it that way, because what we found out with COVID is that all of a sudden, you could increase access and participation because you're using Zoom meetings. People can actually go to them. And I know that you want everything, I know that the county Board of Supervisors wants us to be in face-to-face. I think we should push that question.
It's not that the board wants to, it's, that the COVID emergency act provision, for the Zoom, allowing for telemeetings are gone, and the current
Okay.
process is, there is a current process allowed, but it is very, very cumbersome.
You have to have a public meeting at every place that someone's called for dialing in from.
That's right.
So
And-
that you have to post it 72 hours in advance in that location. You have to be set up to take
I
public
see.
comment at that
Okay.
location, all of those things that,
You mean, even if somebody is calling in to attend the meeting?
No.
It's
It's
one
just
of
the
the
commissioners.
Commissioners.
if one of
Just
us,
the commissioner.
yeah, if one of us wanted to Zoom in from our home,
Right.
we would still have to post at our home
I
72
get
hours in
it.
advance.
All
And you have to
We would
open up.
still
your-
have to be able to take public comment at our
Okay.
home.
Okay.
The public would have to be able to come in
Okay.
and watch us,
In
in
our
our
home. In home.
right?
Yeah.
Like, those types of things.
I think your point is well taken though, and it's
Yeah.
in the charter, it's in the ordinance, it's in the second section of our bylaws here that we're gonna promote equity,
Yeah,
access,
right.
and inclusion.
What does that look
So
like?
I think
We have to
we're
figure
gonna,
out creative ways.
well, if we can't get it right now in the ordinance, it's gonna be an ongoing thing, and I
Yeah.
think it's specific to our county, because we cover such a large
Yeah.
geographical area, where
And-
they're asking some
and there
people
are
to
a lot
drive
of-
60 miles, 70 miles to a meeting,
Yeah.
and still be in the county of San
That's right.
Diego, so I think this isn't a one-time thing for us, it's gonna be something we're every single thing that we.
I can't
And
imagine
these
we're the
people-
only ones talking about this.
Yeah.
You're
They're
not.
not.
There are some attempts, to fix this and
Right.
Oh, good,
to allow
okay.
for more of this, and as those come online, we'll,
I would just suggest if somebody's having issues, if you feel comfortable, then share it with myself or Renee. Well, and also maybe just keep track, so if and when we can have a more in-depth discussion on it, we have some numbers to look at. So that you'll be able to tell us that it's costing you $12 each way
And
or
it's
something,
not-
so we know. And it's not just, oh, we think it's that. We'd like, it'd be nice to have real numbers so we can,
It
look at
also,
real-
it can encompass, not just money, but, now that we're meeting in daylight, the safety issue is maybe mitigated, because it's not getting out of meetings when it's pitch dark. But that's another one, you know, some people don't do stuff at night because it's not safe.
That these exist, and thank you for putting it out there, but
Yeah.
but I think that, you know, ideally, no one should have to feel that they need to come, and it should just be available, and then it can have, like, subject to the approval, and, so I think the more we can do this, or however we're meant to push this, if this is going across the board, at some point, people will just refuse to meet, because it's prohibitive.
That could happen, actually, so. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna, but I know I think it took a long time to fill those positions, our positions. It took a long time. For many months.
So if you wanted the bylaws or to give us like reimbursement, you'd have to change the ordinance, or change the ordinance up to the IRS, basically, and
They,
or petition.
they both would require approval. Right now, anything in the bylaws or ordinance would require approval by the board of supervisors. The method is similar, and to simplify it, let's just say that bylaws would require one board meeting and ordinance is required two board meetings.
Okay,
I'm like
I
way
remember that.
oversimplifying it, so David.
I remember you talking about that last time, okay.
But that's
Yeah.
the basic gist of it,
Right. 2 board meetings in an extra month.
Yeah, I remember that, you explaining that, okay.
If we were to, propose and approve an ad hoc, bylaw, would there be a way to share information with them prior to that, after comments? Trying to be the most effective way to get.
So, anything that is shared with the entire commission is considered public record, and what it would most likely be is we can make an, send our agenda and such attachments way ahead of time.
I think I had to organize that meeting so we would actually,
Oh, I see what you're
Get
saying,
it
for
done.
the subcommittee meeting.
for a
we'd be
subcommittee
discussing-
meeting, you know, because it's hard, you know, reading off these little lines and things. Is there any way we could share information with you prior, or be prepared, I don't know, with a whiteboard or something, just something to be able to kind of advance it?
I'm gonna defer to David, is the subcommittee is not a majority.
Brown Act, you know, presents the Brown Act issue. What you could do is this. There is nothing keeping members of the subcommittee from sending to Zhang their proposed changes. There is nothing prohibiting Zhang from putting together a draft along with the agenda that includes suggestions from people for people to review. What there is a problem with is the subcommittee doing, you know, communicating on that, you know, a majority of the subcommittee communicating together.
Right, so as long as it goes through.
Right, and, you know, and, yeah, if the agenda is posted, it's open and public, there's not an issue about, oh my gosh, are we hiding? You know, is the commission you know, is the subcommittee deliberating in private? It's, everything's open and public, and that's the way that could be done, and then everybody can review those proposed changes and decide what they like or don't like, and, you know, that is needed.
Subcommittees, ad hoc committees are staffed anyway, so, right?
Generally,
Mhm.
staff can attend and nothing Amy.
Can or will?
Will.
Will.
I can't quite remember, sorry.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
Okay, if we went over this, I think we did, but just to refresh me. If we have the subcommittee meetings that they Brown Act, then they,
I believe so.
Okay.
We'll double check on some things, but if looking at it, we're looking that way.
Or you at least wouldn't be able to vote, correct? I mean, if there was any vote in the sub, but I think you could vote anyway, so.
No.
Well,
Maybe
it's also the discussing
Okay.
matters in the jurisdiction of the subcommittee. So,
David, I have a question about this because I'm trying to think about just the iterative process of drafting things.
right.
Goes sometimes in many stages. So basically what's happening, what we're saying is that even that process is really something that happens at the committee. I mean, I'm just, you know, just like the break, so if, I guess in a way, it is possible, but the subcommittee would meet, the brainstorming would be happening, that's public, you know, everyone can, you know, listen and share in that process. And you're talking about maybe what would be edited or tracked, you know, like just commenting on things, right? So that it wouldn't be going back and forth, you know, between 2 people, 3 people. It would go to Zhang. Then you could send it back to us. So we'll just, I guess the goal would be to try to get as much out and discussed out in a verbal sense at the meeting. And just some of us, you know, think through writing.
And if there are changes anybody wants to make prior to the meeting, send them to Zhang,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
perhaps and perhaps goes along with the agenda might be a draft with
So I
with
have an
some
idea.
proposed changes.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay,
Right.
it's not a proposal, it's an idea. I feel done some really good work here and hammered out some really good language, all of which has been captured, right? How about in lieu of an ad hoc, you could, as quickly as possible, not waiting until a week before the next meeting, but maybe, I know this is awful, maybe next week, grab the wording that we've put out there, send it to us all. We can cogitate, send things back to you. And then this bylaws, it's gonna have to be on the next agenda for next month anyway. But maybe most of this work could be done through that process where we're not having another meeting subject to the Brown Act. And I really think when we look at everything that we talked about here, we're really close.
We had an ad hoc committee meet one time before the next meeting, the ad hoc committee could come up with that.
Could you still capture all that language and get it out there? Yes. Thank you.
And
I'm
then
sorry to put that much pressure on you,
Then a draft could
but
be distributed,
At
a draft could be distributed prior to the next meeting.
And
That
also
people
prior
could
even
show
to
up.
the ad hoc meeting,
Sure,
right?
people could show up with that draft and any comments on there could get resolved.
Do you even need an ad hoc
That's what I'm
committee,
saying,
or
do we
can
need
just
it?
a subset of this commission that's below majority meet and
Or does it even
a
matter?
formal structure?
I think we're so close that it could be done. This is what I think, this is just my opinion. I think we're so very close passing bylaws that if we have all of this, we could, and a little back and forth through Zhang, so it's all kosher, we would be able to pass the bylaws, a final draft by next month. However, that's just my opinion, and Jay, I think you would feel more comfortable if there were one more meeting.
Well, it's, I don't,
I
you know,
don't
in
feel
terms,
we're close.
yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't feel we're
I don't
close.
Oh, you don't feel we're close?
Because I would say
Okay.
one other category that we haven't flushed
Oh,
out, that
yeah.
I think could get flushed out, the ad hoc would be the duties and officers.
Okay.
The other bylaws were pretty, you know, were much more
Yeah, they were
detailed.
much more extensive.
So I think duties and officers, and then the ad hoc committee should also consider, do we have like an executive committee? An ad hoc committee could explore whether or not we have an executive
Okay.
committee. You know, that's one other thing that seemed to be pretty consistent throughout the other bylaws, is to have an executive committee.
Well,
So,
are you talking about the LA stuff?
Mm-mm.
no, the other.
You're talking
ones-
about other bylaws that you saw, that you
Yeah.
read?
The other ones that were provided.
'Cause
That were provided. I'm not saying we need to decide that now, I just say that's some language that could be considered in draft format and agree.
I intentionally did not come to this meeting thinking we were going to do that kind of granular work. I know it's not done, it's just not done very well in these kind of
Okay.
settings. And so that's why, I can't say I don't think we're close. I don't know if we're close, because we really haven't delved into it, very specifically. We've been talking in general about what can we do and what are the rules and things like that, but in terms of what's here, I don't think we've really gotten into it, and, so I think one meeting that's devoted just to this would be quite, useful. Right, and I think Jay should do it. I'm nominating him.
I think Felicia should be on the committee.
And I think Charlene should be on it.
Well, we've got 3 volunteers already.
I also
I'd be happy to
volunteer, if
co-chair
there's
with
anything
you.
that has to do with bylaws that I have to like look at and oversee, I feel like it's my responsibility to be there, so how many people do we have so far? Did you,
I'd be interested.
wait, what, okay, so we're
Yeah,
still under
me and Jay,
the,
we're gonna do it,
Yeah, we'll
and
do it.
Charlene's gonna do it.
okay.
So
Wait,
I've
who
heard-
said they would do it again?
I
Raise
did
your hand,
Jay,
Debbie.
Felicia, Charlene, and you, so that's 5.
So we're still kind of under the,
For now.
for now, okay.
So, I'd like
Somebody
to
wanna
make
make-
I'll make a motion that we
Mhm.
form an ad hoc, committee to, ad hoc, bylaws
Mhm.
Sunsetting when?
upon approval of the bylaws.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and do you want, is your motion including, nomination of members?
Mhm.
I didn't understand that part, what?
Oh, does that include the nomination of the?
I would not,
As
Yeah.
a slate, that group that just raised their hand.
right.
The people who raise their hands. You got it in the motion?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Ready, second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Even though this is, I just had one workaround, I know you like workarounds.
I don't like workarounds.
No, I like this one. It already, somebody mentioned this, that it is one of our duties and responsibilities in our charter, to promote equity and access to arts and culture in the region.
Mhm.
So we get to interpret that as it's us who are here to interpret that.
Yeah.
Interpreting that could be funding people who have financial difficulties of getting here to this meeting. So that could be one of the decisions we make without changing the charter. The only thing is, we don't have any funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
the
we
part that
basically have to
should
say
be in
to,
there.
basically have to say to as they're right now grinding down to the final numbers, is there any way to get $1,000 set aside a year
Mhm.
in the budget for this organization to use for miscellaneous?
But at least it's
That
in
also,
here.
I think, because the ordinance is very particular about people not receiving compensation.
Oh, I see.
They would, that
We
would.
still have to do that.
Well, but the
Yeah.
ordinance also
right.
says we're gonna apply for and administer for grants from all levels of government and private sources for carrying the functions of this commission. One of the functions of this commission, what equity and access. We could essentially apply for money from
County
private.
grant, for example?
No, from private sources. You could,
But it
you
still
know,
would be in the
We'd-
ordinance
we'd
that
be
we,
getting-
that we can't be reimbursed.
so I would go to our legal counsel.
So we'd have to
and
go
say,
get that.
we have things in conflict here.
Yeah, they're in conflict with each other.
But I don't know, I think
I
it's gonna
suspect
keep
that
coming up.
soliciting grants that go into our pocket would fall under a conflict of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just basically have to get that part
Well,
changed
but
if
it's
it
not,
was.
I was totally
It's on our
joking.
pocket.
But maybe we could get it
Yeah,
changed if
it's a
it
function.
specifically said, we'd obviously have to go through to get approval, but it specifically said that it was for, the only compensation we receive would be for like reimbursement purposes. I'm sure they must have similar language in one of these other groups that have done it, that we could.
That there is language in some other commissions, and there's a county policy about how they handle, travel reimbursement. Those who are authorized, so that infrastructure's in place, and it would be a matter of getting it into the ordinance, getting the board to approve it, and having the money to implement.
You have something?
no, it was, I answered.
Motion is second to vote.
Oh, we have
We
voted.
did vote.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Mhm. It was approved.
Yeah.
No nays. A little bit of housekeeping is when and where. I gotta turn my phone back on, sorry.
Mhm. You know, it would help to know when the next meeting is, and we'll,
The next meeting is June 21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just know that ideally by June 16th, all public, the agenda and public,
mhm.
For that meeting.
for that meeting.
Okay, so it has to be somewhere between tomorrow and,
How does June seventh look?
I have a question about, like, if I, like, for example, ask, like, request, or is that, or do we have to, the meeting date that?
The commission can only move the meetings as long as it is within more than 72 hours
Okay.
before whenever the notice comes out. I would just have to have enough time to.
Okay.
So this little slow thing is not happening very fast. What day of the week is June seventh?
A Wednesday.
I'm available.
Anybody wanna try it earlier than two, or does two work for everybody?
Two?
Two
Yeah.
works for me, but do you wanna
Two
try
works
it
for me.
earlier, or is two?
Do you want us to do the morning meeting that day?
Yeah, would 10 o'clock on
I could
Wednesday
do
the
that.
7th work?
I could do 10.
Okay.
Oh, 10 in the morning rather
Would that
than
work
2?
for you?
Yeah. I'm giving Wednesday to this,
There you go.
so Wednesday's my favorite day.
So propose
So
Wednesday,
the 7th,
June 7th, 10 a.m.
and it's gonna be 10 o'clock. Now, does that work for staff?
Yes. Okay, yes.
And what about the room? You'll figure that out.
The room I can figure out, and
Okay.
I mean, you're all okay still meeting in this room is
Yeah.
available? Okay, in this building.
And then will you take care of the details that make it public?
Yes.
Thank you so much. See, that's a budget item, right there, that we don't have to raise the money for. We're used to having to raise the money for stuff like this.
Ordinance, copy of the ordinance.
Oh,
Where do I
yeah.
find that?
Online, it is on our Arts Commission
It's on our,
website.
it's there, that's all I need to know.
So, gonna meet Wednesday the 7th, 10 a.m., ad hoc bylaws, somewhere on this property, sorry about that. And you're gonna be our staff person? Yes. Okay, so this looks good.
And just, even if you are not on the subcommittee, doesn't mean you can't be there, you just don't get to vote.
So we'll just do like a member.
Right.
Okay.
So which means you can attend virtually.
Ah,
That's also
That's
correct.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if someone who's not on the subcommittee has ideas that they would like to,
I believe, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, our subcommittees also have a public.
Not only that, but members of the commission can just generally, members of the commission, subcommittee, or otherwise can say stuff.
okay. So if anybody
Sorry,
has
Jack.
comments that they would like for the subcommittee,
Fill up your email box.
Phil Zhang's in the box with all your fantastic ideas.
Yeah.
Please.
So besides me and Jay, I was kind of losing it. Alicia, are you on?
Felicia.
Felicia, I mean, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I mean, but,
Ready to go to item 6?
Any public comments for staff report? Seeing none, I don't have much to report besides the Holy Cross exhibit opening is this 21st, this Sunday at 11. Other than that, I have notified you guys, for the public to be aware, we had 2 resignations from the commission last month, but we also had 1 appointment. So Charlene O'Keefe is the other District 2 appointee.
Hi. Oh, good, let's talk after, just to say hi.
The additional youth appointee will be going forward in our June board meeting, so we will have an appointee already for that, and 5 is already aware, and their vacancy. I anticipate. Other than that, unless any of you have any questions for me about anything.
Anybody want to move to adjourn? Anybody want to second that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
2 hours, that has to be.
I was looking at them.
Nothing stresses the mind like a
Are they
deadline.
like mentality or cat eye?
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
We turn these back into you.